My wife hid her debt while I paid all bills, so I took full control of our assets and left her with nothing. I'm a 33-year-old guy, and for years I thought my marriage to Emily was built on trust. From the outside, we looked perfect, the kind of couple people envied. We had a cozy little house in the suburbs, matching mugs in the kitchen, and our friends used to call us the stable ones. I was the kind of husband who worked long hours, always putting something aside for our future savings, retirement, emergencies. Emily used to smile at me from across the dinner table and say, "You're the planner. I'm the dreamer. Together, we make balance." I wanted to believe that, so when she told me she was handling her part of the bills, I never questioned it. I paid the mortgage, utilities, groceries, and car insurance. She handled the smaller things, as she called them, her student loans, the internet, her credit cards. It seemed fair, and I trusted her without hesitation. That trust was something I prided myself on, believing that honesty was our foundation. But every now and then, something felt off. I'd ask her if she needed help with any payments, and she'd brush me off with a laugh. "Babe, relax. I'm not helpless." Her tone was playful, but her eyes always flickered away. I'd catch her getting tense when mail from the bank arrived, or when I mentioned balancing our finances together. Once, when I suggested combining accounts to make things simpler, she changed the subject so fast it left me stunned. Still, I told myself not to overthink it. We were happy, and happy people didn't dig for problems. But late at night, when she'd fall asleep beside me, I'd stare at the ceiling and wonder why trust, something I thought we had in abundance, suddenly felt like a fragile illusion waiting to crack. And deep down, I knew that illusion wouldn't last forever. It started small, details anyone else would have missed. Phone calls Emily would ignore and silence immediately. Letters she'd snatch from the mailbox before I even noticed them. I remember one night we were watching TV and her phone kept buzzing with unknown numbers. When I asked who it was, she muttered, "Spam calls. They've been relentless lately," before flipping her phone face down on the table. Her voice was calm, but her hands were trembling. I tried to brush it off, convincing myself everyone gets spam. But the feeling wouldn't leave me, that itch in the back of your head when something doesn't add up. Then, one afternoon, I came home early from work. She didn't hear me walk in. I found her sitting at the kitchen table, whispering into her phone, her tone sharp and defensive. "I told you, I'll make a payment soon. Please, just stop calling me at work." She froze when she saw me standing there. The color drained from her face. "Who is that?" I asked quietly. Her lips parted, searching for an excuse. It was my cousin. She needed help with her rent. A terrible lie told too fast. That night, I noticed her deleting texts, clearing her email notifications, and slipping into bed as if nothing happened. She reached for me, trying to act normal, but her warmth felt rehearsed. My chest tightened. That's when doubt really began to take root. The next few weeks felt heavy. She asked me to cover the electric bill just this month, then the car insurance, until her bonus came in. I didn't mind, but the excuses kept piling up, and so did the silence between us. I kept telling myself she'd come clean eventually, but I didn't realize I was standing at the edge of a much darker truth, one that would soon shatter everything. I believed about her, and it was already too late to turn back. It happened on a quiet Sunday morning. I was sorting through our tax documents in the home office, receipts, W-2 South, and old bank statements. Emily was out running errands, which already meant hours of vague absence I'd stopped questioning. I just wanted to get our paperwork in order before tax season. But as I flipped through a stack of unopened envelopes, I saw one marked Final Notice. The name on it was hers. Curiosity turned to dread when I opened it. A balance of $8,423.76 overdue. My stomach dropped. I kept digging, and soon the desk was covered in credit card statements, all under her name. $25,000 in total debt spread across different banks. Late fees, interest charges, minimum payments missed 4 months. Every line screamed betrayal. When Emily came home, humming like nothing was wrong, I confronted her. "Emily, what is this?" I asked, holding up the pile of statements. Her smile vanished. "You went through my mail," she snapped, her voice trembling. "I went through our mail," I shot back. "What's all this debt?" Tears welled up instantly, too quickly, almost on cue. "It's not what it looks like," she said, choking up. It's just old student loans and some medical bills. I didn't want to worry you. $25,000. Emily. I shouted. You didn't think that was something I should know about? She collapsed onto the couch, sobbing into her hands. I was scared. Okay, you'd think I was irresponsible. I thought I could fix it before you found out. Her tears cut deep, part guilt, part manipulation. I hated seeing her like that, and against my better judgment, I believed her. We agreed to tackle it together to rebuild trust and transparency. But as I held her that night, I couldn't shake the feeling that she was still keeping something from me. And I was right. For a while, it actually felt like we were getting back on track. After that confrontation, Emily promised full transparency. We sat down together with spreadsheets and budget plans, and she nodded along as I explained how we'd start paying down the debt. I even took on extra freelance work, telling myself it was temporary, that we'd get through this as a team. At first, she seemed genuinely remorseful. She cooked dinner more often, left little notes on my desk like, "We'll get through this together." Sometimes, I'd catch her looking at me with tears in her eyes, whispering, "I don't deserve you." And I'd tell her she did, because that's who I was. The man who fixed things. The man who believed love could survive anything. But cracks started showing again. She began staying up late, claiming she was working overtime or doing freelance projects to make extra money. I wanted to believe her, but the glow of her phone screen at 2 a.m. told a different story. One night, I walked into the living room and found her quickly minimizing a browser window. I caught a glimpse: balance transfer, credit score impact, new card application. My heart sank. "Emily," I said carefully, "I thought we were done with secrets." She froze, then smiled weakly. "You're overthinking again. I was just researching ways to help us relax." Her tone was sweet, but her eyes darted away, the same way they always did when she lied. I wanted to confront her harder, but I was tired. Tired of fighting, tired of doubting, tired of loving someone who made honesty feel like a guessing game. Still, I convinced myself that maybe she really was trying. Maybe I was just paranoid, but deep down, I knew something was brewing again, something worse than before. And this time, it would break more than just our finances. It happened on an ordinary Tuesday. I was at work when my phone rang, an unfamiliar number from a bank I didn't recognize. The voice on the other end was polite but cautious. "Mr. Harris, we're calling to verify the joint loan application you and your wife submitted last week." My pulse spiked. "What loan application?" There was a pause. "A $40,000 personal loan under both your names. We just need confirmation before final approval." I hung up mid-sentence. My hands were shaking as I tried to process what I'd just heard. Emily had used my name, my credit, to take out a massive loan I knew nothing about. When I got home that evening, she was sitting on the couch scrolling through her phone like nothing was wrong. "Who's giving us a $40,000 loan?" I asked flatly. Her head snapped up. "Don't play dumb, Emily. The bank called me today." For a moment, she just stared. Then her face crumbled. "I was going to tell you," she whispered. "I just needed to fix everything first." "Fix what?" I demanded. "What the hell have you done?" Tears filled her eyes. "I was gambling," she said, her voice breaking. "Online poker slots. I thought I could win enough to pay off the cards before you noticed. I was close, I swear." I was so close. The words hit like a brick to the chest. Gambling? All those overtime hours, those late-night phone calls, everything suddenly made sense. "You were gambling with our future," I said quietly. With my name, she fell apart in front of me, sobbing and begging, saying she'd stop, she'd change, she just needed help. But all I could feel was this hollow ache, like the person I'd built my life with was a stranger wearing my wife's face. And I knew then, love wouldn't be enough to fix this. After that night, everything spiraled faster than I could control. Emily swore she'd quit gambling and begged me to give her another chance. She deleted the apps, promised to attend therapy, even handed me her credit cards. For a brief moment, I wanted to believe she meant it. But when trust breaks, even silence feels suspicious. The first real blow came a month later when I checked our mortgage account. The last 2 payments hadn't gone through. I stared at the screen, heart hammering. I'd given her the money to pay it. She said she'd handled it. When I confronted her, she broke down again, swearing it was a mistake. But her eyes, they told the truth before her words did. Then came the calls. Debt collectors, one after another. They had my number now. Some were polite, others aggressive, all demanding payment for debts I never knew existed. I felt my world shrinking, my sanity bleeding out with every final notice. One night, I found the engagement ring receipt in her old purse. She'd pawned the diamond for cash, my ring, my symbol of trust. When I showed her the empty box, she screamed, "I had no choice. I was trying to fix what I broke." "By breaking more," I shot back. My voice cracked under the weight of exhaustion and disbelief. That night, I didn't sleep. I just sat in the dark, surrounded by bills and broken promises, realizing that every sacrifice I'd made, every hour worked, every dream postponed, had been wasted on someone who couldn't even tell me the truth. I wasn't just angry anymore. I was numb, the kind of numb that comes when pain runs too deep to feel. And somewhere in that silence, something inside me snapped, not out of rage, but out of resolve, because I knew this couldn't continue. It all came crashing down on a rainy Friday night, the kind of night where the world feels heavy and quiet. Emily and I were sitting in the living room, barely speaking. The TV was on, but neither of us was watching. I'd just gotten off the phone with another debt collector who claimed she'd opened a new credit card 2 weeks ago. I hadn't even known she still could when I confronted her. She didn't even try to deny it this time. "I needed money," she said, voice low and shaking. "You were suffocating me. Watching everything I do, suffocating you." I snapped, rising from the couch. "I'm trying to keep us from losing our home, Emily." Her eyes flashed with anger, not remorse. "You think you're perfect. You think money fixes everything." I just wanted to feel in control for once. I laughed bitterly. "Control? You've burned through our savings, trashed my credit, and you call that control?" The argument exploded. Years of resentment, disappointment, and betrayal poured out in one chaotic storm. She screamed that I never really understood her. I shouted that she'd destroyed the very life we built. The rain outside pounded against windows like it was trying to drown us out, and then she said something I'll never forget. "Maybe if you weren't so obsessed with being the hero, I wouldn't have had to lie." The room fell silent. That line hit harder than any truth could. I didn't respond. I just picked up my jacket and walked out into the rain. No destination in mind, just the need to breathe. The world outside was cold, but inside me, something was colder. The realization that the woman I loved had no intention of changing. That night, I sat in my car until sunrise, alone, soaked, and completely empty. That was the moment I hit rock bottom. The morning after that fight, something in me shifted. I wasn't angry anymore. I was done. Anger still meant I cared, and I didn't. I looked at Emily sleeping on the couch. Mascara smudged, her phone clutched in her hand. For the first time, I didn't feel pity or love. I felt clarity. Cold, sharp clarity. I made coffee, sat at the kitchen table, and began writing everything down. Every debt, every transaction, every time she lied. I started collecting receipts, bank statements, and emails. I even called the banks to request copies of her loan applications. Each time I heard the numbers read aloud, my jaw tightened a little more. Over the next few days, I quietly opened a new bank account under my name alone. I rerouted my paycheck, locked down my credit reports, and called my lawyer friend, Ryan. When I told him what was going on, he sighed. "You've got to separate everything financially and legally before she drags you down with her." That night, Emily noticed me acting distant. "You're not talking to me anymore," she said softly. "I don't know what to say," I replied. "Everything that needed saying was said the night you blamed me for your lies." She stared at me for a long time, searching for the old version of me, the man who always forgave. But that man was gone. From that point on, every interaction was an act. I smiled when she talked, nodded when she lied, and pretended to believe she was getting better. Inside, I was already gone, planning my exit with quiet precision. I didn't know it yet, but my calm detachment scared her more than my anger ever could. And soon, she'd learn just how much control I still had. Over the next few weeks, I became someone I barely recognized, calm, methodical, and invisible. Emily thought I was retreating, giving her space to heal. In reality, I was reclaiming everything she'd quietly stolen. Every morning before work, I called banks, insurance companies, and title offices. Every evening, I reviewed legal paperwork while she scrolled through her phone. Oblivious. Ryan helped me file ownership amendments on the house since my income had paid the majority of it. We shifted the mortgage and deed entirely under my name. It took signatures, notarizations, and some legal maneuvering, but it worked. Emily never questioned the papers I placed in front of her. She'd sign anything if I told her it was just refinancing paperwork. When the final documents came through, I stared at my name alone, printed in bold across the property deed. It wasn't revenge. It was survival. Meanwhile, I made sure to separate my credit and assets entirely. I changed my passwords, froze joint accounts, and even moved a few valuable possessions into a rented storage unit. Emily noticed little things: missing jewelry, an absent watch box, but she brushed it off, too busy pretending she still had control. One night, as she slept, her phone lit up with another message from a gambling site. "Congratulations! Your account has been reactivated." That's when I realized she hadn't stopped at all. I watched her for a long time, her breathing steady, her face peaceful, the same face that had lied to me 100 times. I felt nothing. No hate, no sorrow. Just a quiet certainty that she'd never see what was coming, because by the time she realized how much she'd lost, it would already be too late, and the power she craved so badly would be mine again. It happened on a Sunday morning, the kind that should have been peaceful sunlight through the blinds, coffee brewing, the smell of toast. But I'd been waiting for this day. I had a folder in my hand, thick with evidence, bank statements, loan documents, screenshots, and emails. Years of lies condensed into paper form. When Emily walked into the kitchen, still half asleep, I said quietly, "Sit down. We need to talk." She frowned, instantly suspicious. "What's going on?" I slid the folder across the table. "You've been gambling again? And lying. And using my name for loans." Her eyes flickered through the pages, growing wider with each one. "You went through my things," she said, voice trembling. "I went through our things," I replied, "because you turned our marriage into a business transaction I never agreed to." She stood abruptly, panic rising. "You can't just throw this at me." "We can fix it. There's nothing left to fix," I cut in. "I already did." "What do you mean?" I took a deep breath. "The accounts are closed. The house is in my name. The lawyers have the paperwork. I've already filed for divorce." For a moment, silence swallowed the room. Then she laughed, a brittle, hysterical sound. "You wouldn't dare. You wouldn't leave me with nothing." But the look in my eyes must have told her I already had. Her voice cracked. "You can't do this to me." "I didn't do this to you, Emily. You did it to yourself." She sank into the chair, hands covering her face, the weight of her own destruction finally settling in. I watched her crumble, not with satisfaction, but with closure. For once, I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I just stood, walked out the door, and left her sitting there surrounded by the ruins she built. And for the first time in years, I felt free. The days that followed felt strangely calm. I'd moved out, staying in a small apartment closer to work. It wasn't much: bare walls, secondhand furniture, the hum of city noise instead of the quiet suburbs, but it was mine. I slept through the night for the first time in years. No guilt, no phone calls, just silence. Meanwhile, Emily's world unraveled. The moment she realized the accounts were frozen and the joint credit cards canceled, she began calling nonsense. First, it was tearful. "Please, we can fix this. I'll go to therapy. I swear I'll change." Then it turned angry. "You can't just abandon me. You're heartless." Eventually, it went quiet. That silence spoke louder than any words ever could. A few weeks later, Ryan called to update me. "She's facing lawsuits from the credit companies," he said. "The debts are in her name now. You're legally clear." For a moment, I just stared at the floor. Relief didn't come as triumph. It came as exhaustion, the kind that sits deep in your bones. Mutual friends reached out to... They'd heard Emily's version first, how I ruined her life. But when the truth surfaced, the sympathy shifted. Even her own family stopped defending her. Apparently, they'd lent her money too. She'd burned every bridge she had. One night, I got a message from her. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry. You didn't deserve any of it." I stared at the words for a long time before deleting them. I didn't need closure from her. She'd already given it to me in the form of peace. I walked out onto my balcony. The night air, cold but clean. For the first time in a long time, the future didn't scare me. It actually felt wide open, and she was finally gone for good. It's been almost a year since I walked away from Emily, and I can finally say I don't feel anger anymore, just distance, the kind that turns chaos into memory. Life has become beautifully simple again. My paychecks go where they should. My nights are quiet. My peace doesn't depend on someone else's promises. A few months after the divorce finalized, I heard through a friend that Emily had filed for bankruptcy. She's living in a small rental on the outskirts of town, working double shifts just to stay afloat. I didn't smile when I heard it, but I didn't feel sorry either. It was the life she built, brick by brick, out of her own lies. One evening, she sent me one final message. "I hope you're happy now." I read it once, then locked my phone and went back to my dinner. Happiness isn't revenge. It's freedom. It's knowing I'll never again wake up wondering what lie is waiting in the mail or which debt is lurking in the shadows. I bought a new place, small, clean, and quiet. When I first walked through it, the realtor asked if I planned to live there alone. I said yes, and it felt like the most powerful word I'd ever spoken. When I sit on the porch and watch the sun dip behind the skyline, I think about how much I gave and how close I came to losing everything because I refused to see the truth. I learned that trust isn't about blind belief. It's about protecting yourself when others prove they won't. Emily taught me that, and as I close this chapter, I realize revenge didn't destroy her. Her own choices did. All I did was finally let karma finish the job.